Eli had been through some strange missions in his life, but nothing could have prepared him for this. He was a human explorer, known for his courage and ability to solve impossible problems in the far reaches of the galaxy. Today, he had completed a mission that many would have considered suicidal. He had retrieved a rare piece of alien technology from the edge of the Epsilon Rift, a region infamous for unstable gravity fields and vicious predators. The guild that employed him was known for rewards, but Eli had learned not to expect anything simple. They liked to surprise their best explorers. Still, nothing could have prepared him for the kind of reward he received this time. He stepped into the grand hall of the guild's space station, expecting a chest of credits, a weapon upgrade, or even a personal shuttle. Instead, a small platform descended from the ceiling with a bright light focused on it. A hush fell over the room. Eli squinted at what appeared on the platform. Standing there was a tiny creature, no more than 6 inches tall, humanoid in shape but glowing slightly with a translucent shimmer. She had large, intelligent eyes and hair that floated like liquid silver. Her ears were pointed, and her limbs, though delicate, seemed impossibly strong. She looked at Eli with an intensity that made him instinctively step back. "Meet Zyra," said the guildmaster, a tall alien with 4 arms and a thick mandible. "She is your reward." Eli froze. "Excuse me, what?" Then she spoke in a voice that was surprisingly loud for her size. "You saved my species. You will not leave me behind." Ellis stared, baffled. He had saved a piece of alien technology, not an entire species. And now this tiny alien woman was clinging to his boot, her little hands gripping his pant leg as if it were a lifeline. "I don't think this counts as a reward," he said, trying to sound polite, though he was struggling not to panic. He tried to shake her gently, thinking she might let go. She didn't. "No," she said firmly, "but I go where you go. You are my protector now. I will not let go." The guildmaster waved at him impatiently. "Do not worry. She is intelligent. She will not cause harm. Consider her an unusual companion and a valuable ally." Eli looked down at her, unsure whether to laugh or scream. She was small, yes, but her eyes held an intensity that made him shiver. And then she did something that made him almost fall backward. She jumped and latched onto his leg more securely, as if she had been waiting her whole life for him. "I told you," she said. "You are mine. We begin now." Eli swallowed hard. He had faced alien predators, navigated black holes, and survived deadly missions, but nothing had prepared him for negotiating with a tiny alien who refused to let go. He tried to reason with her. "Okay, look, I appreciate that you're grateful, but I don't even know your species. I don't know anything about you. And I really need to, move without having someone hanging off me." Zyra's eyes narrowed. "Your species is clever, brave, resourceful. I need that. You saved my people. You will carry me, and together we will do greater things." He realized arguing was pointless. He could feel the tiny pressure of her grip. It wasn't hurting, but it wasn't going away either. He adjusted his boot and carefully tested a few steps. Zyra held on without even a hint of slipping. "Fine," he muttered under his breath. "Fine. But this doesn't mean I like it." Zyra's lips curled into a tiny smile. "I know you will come to like it, and I will make sure of it." The guild members chuckled quietly, some clearly entertained by the unusual pairing. Eli tried to focus on walking, but every movement was now an exercise in balance. Zyra clung to his leg with astonishing strength, her tiny hands digging into the fabric of his pants like she had superhuman suction. As they left the hall, Eli couldn't help but notice that she wasn't just a passive passenger. She pointed and gestured toward the station controls. "Danger," she said simply, her voice calm and precise. "Threat approaching the colony. You must act." "Wait, what? I thought we were just walking." "Walk faster," Zyra insisted. "Time is short." He tried to ignore her, thinking she was overreacting, but the station alarm suddenly blared. Red lights flashed across the hall. The colony, thousands of kilometers away, was under threat from a band of raiders who had somehow bypassed the outer security shields. Eli's mind went into rapid calculation mode. Raiders were serious, but with Zyra on his leg, he would have to figure out a way to move quickly without losing balance. He gritted his teeth and bolted down the hall, dodging security drones and sliding past hovering cargo platforms. Zyra shouted directions, her small voice cutting through the chaos. "Left! Duck! Over here!" Eli was astonished. Despite her size, she had an uncanny sense of the environment, predicting movements and obstacles he hadn't even noticed. He realized that maybe the guildmaster had been right. This tiny alien was a valuable ally. By the time they reached the hangar, Eli was sweating. He looked around, trying to decide whether to take a shuttle or fight back directly. Zyra tugged on his pant leg, urging him toward a small transport ship. "We go there. You will need me." Eli hesitated. "I don't even know how you plan to help."
"You're tiny."
Zyra's eyes flashed with determination. Size does not matter. Cleverness does. Trust me. Eli's jaw tightened. He had no choice. He lifted her gently and placed her on the dashboard of the small shuttle. She immediately began pointing to controls, pressing buttons with her tiny hands, her movements precise and confident. Humans are strong, but slow," she said. "Together, we can be faster." Eli shook his head in disbelief. He had faced death countless times, but here he was, piloting a ship while taking orders from someone who was smaller than his hand. And yet, she was right. Her instincts were flawless, her guidance clear and accurate. The shuttle lifted off just as raiders appeared on the horizon. Eli took the controls, weaving through the approaching ships. Zyra shouted directions, helping him avoid collisions and enemy fire. Despite the danger, Eli felt a strange thrill. He glanced at her, and she met his eyes without fear. There was something almost human in the intensity of her gaze, something that made him feel connected to her, as if their fates were now intertwined. "Stick close," she said, hopping onto the seat beside him with agility that defied her size. "We have much to do." Eli smiled despite himself.
"You really won't let go, huh?" "Never," she said, her tiny face serious. "I will be with you until the end."
"You have my word." And just like that, Eli realized that his life had changed in ways he had never imagined. He was used to facing aliens, raiders, and impossible odds. But now he had a companion who was small, stubborn, and brilliant. A companion who saw in him something he had never realized he possessed: human courage, ingenuity, and resilience. As they darted through space, Eli began to feel a strange mix of amusement and admiration. This tiny alien woman was fierce, clever, and fearless, and for some reason he found himself respecting her completely, even if she refused to leave his leg. The raiders closed in, their weapons charging, but Eli and Zyra moved with precision and skill. Every instruction from her was flawless, every evasive maneuver perfect. For the first time, he felt that maybe this strange reward wasn't a mistake at all. Perhaps, he thought, humans weren't just strong. Humans were adaptable, clever, and capable of forming alliances that no one else could imagine. And right now, that alliance was dangling from his leg in the form of a tiny alien woman who refused to let go. Eli grinned. This was going to be interesting. The shuttle shuddered as laser fire streaked past, hitting the hull with explosive sparks. Eli gritted his teeth, twisting the controls to dodge another shot. Beside him, Zyra hopped from one tiny console to another, her small hands moving with astonishing precision. "Upward! Left flank!" she shouted, her voice carrying authority far beyond her size. Eli's eyes widened. She was actually reading the enemy's attack patterns, predicting their moves before he could even see them. "You're good at this," he admitted, adjusting the throttle. "Better than I expected." "I told you," Zyra said, her tone sharp but not unkind. "Size does not matter. Strategy matters." Eli shook his head in disbelief. He had faced countless alien species, each more dangerous than the last, but none had prepared him for a partner like this. Tiny, stubborn, and fearless. And yet, despite her size, she was changing the way he thought about combat. As they twisted and dodged through the asteroid field, the raiders were relentless. Their ships were larger and more heavily armed than Eli's shuttle, but Zyra's guidance allowed them to slip through gaps the raiders didn't even see. With a sharp twist of the controls, Eli shot a targeting laser at one of the enemy engines. The ship spun out of control, crashing into a nearby asteroid. Zyra cheered, her tiny fists punching the air. "See? Cleverness wins." Eli couldn't help but smile. Yeah, you're a genius. But don't get used to the praise. You're still tiny." She glared at him. Tiny, yes. Weak, no. Remember that. The shuttle cleared the asteroid field and Eli breathed a small sigh of relief. For now, they had distance between themselves and the raiders, but he knew this was only temporary. He glanced at Zyra, who was already scanning the sensors with intense focus. "They are heading straight for the colony," she said. "We must warn them. And we must prepare a defense." Ellie nodded. He had never been much of a politician or a planner. He was an explorer, a problem solver in the moment. But now, with Zyra's guidance, he felt a strange confidence. He could actually make a difference. Humans were adaptable after all, and right now they were the only ones who could save the colony. They landed the shuttle on the outskirts of the colony just as the raiders appeared on the horizon, their ships glinting under the twin suns. Eli leapt out, holding the tiny alien in his hand. Zyra's eyes scanned the landscape, and she began pointing toward key defensive positions. "Turrets here, barricades there," she instructed. "We will use your human ingenuity with my knowledge. Together, we can protect them." Eli raised an eyebrow. "You really think I can build defenses that fast?" "You will," Zyra said, her voice leaving no room for argument. He sighed and set her down gently on the control panel of a defensive turret. "Fine, but stay there and direct. Don't get squashed." Zyra's tiny hands danced over the buttons, activating shield generators and redirecting power to weak points. "I will do more than direct," she said confidently. "I will guide every move." The raiders were approaching faster now, their weapons glowing ominously. He ran to a storage crate, pulling out whatever explosives and tools he could find. His mind raced, combining what he knew about human engineering with Zyra's instructions. "Attach these charges here," she said, pointing precisely. "Use that panel to overload the shield generator. We can make them think the colony is more dangerous than it is." Eli followed her guidance, marveling at how she could manipulate the colony's systems so easily, despite her size. He attached the charges to a shield generator, wiring them carefully, while Zyra instructed him on the proper sequence. Every move was critical. One mistake could destroy the colony, or them, hours, or maybe minutes. Time felt strange under pressure, passed in a blur. Eli worked feverishly, sweat pouring down his face, while Zyra leapt from one console to another, her voice a constant stream of precise orders. Finally, the raiders reached the colony perimeter. Their massive ships cast long shadows over the fields. Eli and Zyra activated the defenses, and the colony lit up with bright energy shields and hidden traps. The raiders fired blindly, hitting shields and triggering explosives set by Eli's hands and Zyra's tiny interventions. "Ha!" Zyra shouted. "See? Humans are clever." Eli ducked as a small explosion threw him backward, but he laughed despite himself. "Yeah, okay. I admit it, you were right." The raiders' ships faltered, confused by the unexpected defenses. Eli moved quickly, taking advantage of their hesitation. Using a combination of precise laser shots and well-placed explosives, he disabled the first wave of enemy ships. Zyra clung to his shoulder, directing him toward the remaining threats. "You are stronger than I imagined," she said quietly. "But cleverness, adaptability, and courage, that is what makes humans unstoppable." Eli glanced at her, a mixture of pride and disbelief in his expression. "You know, for a tiny alien, you're really full of compliments." "I observe and speak the truth," she said, her small eyes gleaming. "Do not mistake honesty for flattery." The remaining raiders regrouped, their leader realizing that the colony was far more prepared than anticipated. Eli and Zyra readied another set of defenses, using human creativity to improvise traps from mining equipment and power conduits. Zyra's tiny hands twisted and adjusted the controls, her mind moving faster than any humans could. "Now, Eli," she shouted. "Use the gravity disruptor there. I will trigger the secondary shields. Together, we will end this." He activated the device, sending a pulse that destabilized the raiders' ships. One by one, they spun out of control, crashing into each other, or the asteroid field surrounding the colony. Zyra's guidance was precise. Every move she made was calculated, and Eli's human ingenuity turned her plans into reality. When the last ship exploded on the horizon, Eli slumped to the ground, exhausted but exhilarated. Zyra climbed onto his shoulder, brushing debris from his uniform with tiny hands. "You see?" she said proudly. "Together, humans and my species, well, just me for now, can achieve great things." Eli laughed, shaking his head. "You're unbelievable."
"I can't believe I'm saying this, but..."
"I'm glad you're here, even if you won't let go of my leg."
I told you, I will not let go.
"And you will never want me to." Eli looked out at the colony, at the people he had just saved, and realized something profound. Humans were capable of incredible things, not just because of strength or technology, but because of courage, adaptability, and ingenuity. And sometimes, the strangest alliances brought out the best in them. "All right, Zyra," he said, stretching his sore muscles. "Let's make sure these raiders don't try that again. And maybe, just maybe, we can figure out what to do with you after all this." Zyra smiled, her tiny teeth showing. "We have much to do, Eli. Much to learn, and I will not leave your side, ever." For the first time in a long while, Eli felt a surge of hope. He had faced death countless times, but now, with Zyra's guidance and cleverness, he realized he was stronger than he had ever been. The raiders were defeated, the colony was safe, and a new partnership had begun. A partnership that promised adventures, challenges, and perhaps the saving of entire species. Eli adjusted his stance, feeling Zyra's tiny hands grip his shoulder. "Okay," he said with a grin. "Let's see what else the galaxy has in store for us." And Zyra, true to her word, didn't let go. The dust from the crashed raider ship still hung in the air, sparkling under the colony's twin suns. Eli wiped the sweat from his brow and glanced at Zyra, who was perched on his shoulder scanning the horizon with those sharp, intelligent eyes of hers. He had to admit, she had been invaluable. Without her guidance, the raiders might have overrun the colony, and he would be cleaning up debris instead of celebrating victory. "Think they'll try again?" he asked, voice tinged with fatigue. "They will," Zyra said calmly, her tiny hands fidgeting with a sensor device the size of a pebble. "And next time, they will bring more. Larger ships. Better weapons. We must prepare. Eli groaned. Great. Just what I needed after running through lasers and explosions. More trouble. Zyra tilted her head, a tiny smirk on her face. You do not complain when faced with danger, Eli. You adapt. That is why you are human. Eli laughed weakly. Yeah, well, I prefer to adapt with coffee and sleep, not death beams. You will have neither if we do not act, Zyra replied sharply. Come! We need to reinforce defenses. And you need to understand your full potential as a protector. Eli raised an eyebrow.
My full potential? Seriously? This is getting weird.
You will see, she said, hopping down to the ground.
Her small feet barely made a sound as she darted to a communications terminal. First, we survey the perimeter. Then we plan. You have ideas, yes? Eli nodded. He grabbed a datapad and began reviewing the colony's security systems. The raiders had exploited weak points in the outer shields, which Eli had patched temporarily. He realized quickly that temporary fixes wouldn't be enough. They needed permanent strategies, traps, and clever diversions. Zyra's eyes scanned the perimeter. Humans are strong, she said thoughtfully. But strength alone will not defeat larger forces. You must use your mind, adapt, improvise. Eli smiled. That I can do. But I have to admit, having a 6-inch genius giving orders is unusual. You call it unusual? I call it effective, she said. Her tiny chest puffed with pride. Observe. She climbed onto a nearby security turret and tapped a series of controls. Lights flashed across the screens, indicating weak points in the shield coverage. Then, with a tiny hand gesture, she activated a series of decoys. Holographic images of human soldiers patrolling strategic points. The effect was immediate. From a distance, the colony appeared far more defended than it actually was. Eli whistled. I have to admit, that's brilliant. Zyra looked up at him, her eyes shining. Brilliance is necessary when humans are involved. You can be strong, yes, but cleverness will make you unstoppable. Together, they worked through the night. Eli reinforced barricades, set traps, and repositioned automated turrets. Zyra moved from station to station, correcting errors, adding enhancements, and offering tactical advice. Despite her size, she became an essential part of every plan. All right, Eli said, wiping dirt from his hands. Think we're ready? Ready is a human word. Prepared is better. We are prepared, but we must test it. Eli frowned. Test it? With raiders? Not yet, she replied with a mischievous smile. We test with simulation, but after that, real enemies will come. You will see your true potential. Hours later, a simulation exercise revealed just how far they had come. The defenses were tight, the decoys effective, and Eli's improvised traps were surprisingly deadly. Zyra clapped her tiny hands. Excellent. You are learning fast. I'm learning from you, Eli said with a grin. You've made this fun, in a terrifying sort of way. You are stronger than you think, Zyra said quietly. Cleverer than most humans. And brave. That is why I cannot leave your side. You are more than a protector. You are a hero. Eli felt a strange warmth in his chest. No one had called him a hero in a long time. Not in the way Zyra meant it. Her admiration wasn't just flattery. It was recognition of human ingenuity, courage, and adaptability before he could respond. A loud alert blared from the colony's perimeter sensors. Eli's heart sank. The raiders had returned, and this time, they weren't alone. A fleet of larger ships hovered menacingly above the colony, bristling with weapons. Eli swallowed hard. They've learned, he said grimly. And they've brought more. Zyra's tiny hands clenched into fists. Then we must rise higher. We must show them why humans cannot be underestimated. Ellie nodded, determination hardening his jaw. Humans were adaptable, he thought. They could improvise. They could strategize. And with Zyra's guidance, they could even turn the smallest weaknesses into strengths. The first wave of enemy ships approached. Eli and Zyra coordinated with colony defenses, triggering traps and redirecting power to weak points. Laser turrets fired with precision. Guided by Zyra's tiny hands and Eli's quick thinking, one ship crashed into a barricade, its hull shredded. Another collided with a decoy projection, mistaking it for an actual human patrol. Impressive, Eli muttered.
You're turning the tables.
Humans are always impressive when they adapt, Zyra said, leaping onto a control panel and adjusting shield frequencies. And you, Eli, are exceptional. The raiders regrouped, attempting a direct assault on the colony's central hub. Eli spotted the weakness. A structural beam had been damaged during the first attack. He grabbed a grappling line and ran toward the hub, Zyra clinging tightly to his shoulder. You must focus your strength here, she instructed. Diversion and precision. Use the human mind and body together. That is the way to victory. Ellie adjusted the trajectory of the grappling line, swinging into position. He threw an improvised explosive onto the weakened beam. The structure creaked and groaned, then collapsed in a controlled manner, crushing a raider vehicle and forcing the remaining attackers to scatter. Excellent! Zyra shouted, her tiny voice filled with triumph. You are proving what humans can do when cleverness meets courage. Eli wiped his sweat and laughed, despite the chaos. I have to admit, I'm starting to believe it. And you're something else. Small, but mighty. Zyra looked up at him, eyes glinting. Size is irrelevant. Strength is relative. And courage is universal. As the dust settled, the raiders retreated, their morale broken. Eli looked at the colony, at the people who were safe because of their combined efforts, and felt a surge of pride. Humans were clever, resourceful, and brave. They could face overwhelming odds and prevail. All right, Zyra, he said, brushing debris from his uniform. I think we've earned a short break. She shook her head, tiny fists on her hips. Breaks are for the complacent. We must prepare for the next threat. Now. And we must continue learning from each other. I will not leave your side, Eli. Eli laughed, shaking his head. You're relentless, I'll give you that. But I think I like having you around. Even if you are stubborn as all get out. Zyra's tiny hand tapped his cheek. I am loyal. And you are worthy of loyalty. That is why I stay. That is why I will not let go. Ellie looked out over the colony, at the survivors and the structures they had defended together. He realized that humanity's greatest power wasn't just strength, or weapons, or technology. It was courage, ingenuity, and the ability to adapt in ways no one else could. Zyra had reminded him of that, in the most unusual way possible. You know, he said quietly, for a tiny alien, you've taught me a lot about humans. About myself. Maybe we really can face anything together. Zyra's eyes gleamed with satisfaction. Exactly. And the galaxy is full of challenges. Together, we will overcome them.
Humans are remarkable, and you
are remarkable among them. Eli smiled, feeling a strange sense of pride. This tiny alien woman had made him see the best in himself and in humanity. She clung to him not out of necessity, but because she believed in what humans could do. As night fell over the colony, Eli and Zyra stood together, surveying the stars. The raiders were gone, but the universe was vast and full of threats. Yet Eli no longer felt fear. He felt readiness. He felt hope. And with Zyra by his side, he knew that humans were capable of greatness that few others could imagine. "I suppose," he said, "we're just getting started." Zyra nodded, gripping his shoulder firmly. "Yes, Eli. And I will never let go. Not now. Not ever. Together we will face whatever comes next." Eli laughed, shaking his head in disbelief. "You're impossible." "And yet," she said, "perfectly suited to you." For the first time in a long while, Eli felt truly alive. With courage, ingenuity, and an unlikely ally who refused to let go, he realized that humanity could face anything, even the vast, unpredictable dangers of the galaxy. And together, they would prove it. The night was quiet over the colony, but Eli knew it was only a temporary calm. He and Zyra had worked tirelessly to repair defenses, prepare traps, and train the local security teams. Humans were clever, resourceful, and brave, but Zyra's guidance had shown him they could be extraordinary when they worked together with ingenuity and courage. Eli wiped his hands on his uniform and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, a new threat was coming. He could feel it in his gut, a tension that no simulation or patrol could fully prepare him for. Zyra, perched on his shoulder, mirrored his attention. Her tiny hands tapped lightly against his uniform, a quiet reminder that she was still there. Still determined to cling to him no matter what. "They will come," she said softly, her voice carrying the weight of certainty. "And we will be ready. But this time, the challenge is greater." Eli sighed. "I was hoping for a quiet night." "Quiet nights are for complacent humans," Zyra said with a tiny grin. "We are not complacent." "What?" "We are prepared. And prepared humans are unstoppable." He chuckled, shaking his head. She had a way of making even the most terrifying situations feel manageable. Her confidence was contagious, her intellect sharp, and her tiny body packed with more courage than many humans he had met. Suddenly, the sensors blared. Eli's stomach dropped. It wasn't the usual raiders. This was something massive, something that dwarfed the largest ship he had ever seen. A fleet of alien warships, bristling with advanced weapons, emerged from the darkness of space, moving with terrifying precision. The enemy had learned, adapted, and come prepared. "They are enormous," Eli muttered, feeling a twinge of fear. Zyra shook her tiny head firmly. "Size is irrelevant. Strategy, courage, and adaptability, that is what wins. Humans excel at those things. You will see." Eli felt a surge of determination. Humans were resourceful. Humans were unpredictable. And with Zyra's guidance, he knew they could turn even the impossible odds in their favor. He ran to the command center, Zyra clinging tightly to his shoulder. "All right," he said, taking a deep breath. "Let's make this count." Zyra tapped rapidly on the console, activating the colony's hidden defenses. "We will use every advantage. Energy shields, automated turrets, decoys, and the environment itself. We will make them regret attacking." Eli nodded, analyzing the fleet. Their ships were heavily armed, but he noticed patterns in their formation. Using his knowledge of physics and strategy, he began plotting maneuvers to exploit weak points in their attack. Zyra's tiny hands pointed at key control panels, adjusting power distribution and enhancing the colony's automated defenses. "Remember," she said, "humans are strong, yes, but cleverness will turn strength into victory." Eli activated decoy projections, making the fleet believe the colony was lightly defended. As expected, several ships moved into traps, colliding with energy barriers and triggering carefully placed explosives. Zyra's eyes gleamed. Good. Human intuition and preparation are powerful. Eli ducked as laser fire streaked past. He launched a counterattack, firing precision lasers at the enemy's weak points. Zira called out adjustments, her voice calm and commanding. Left. Now! Overload that shield! Together they moved like a single unit. Eli's human strength and quick thinking complemented Zyra's tiny size, precision, and strategic genius. One of the massive enemy ships broke formation, colliding with a decoy structure and exploding in a dazzling display. The enemy fleet faltered, but their leader was not defeated. A colossal warship broke through the outer defenses, heading straight for the colony's central hub. Eli's heart raced. This ship could destroy everything in minutes. Zyra leaned closer to his ear, her tiny voice urgent. We need a plan. A bold plan. You will act. I will guide. Together, we can turn this disaster into victory. Let's do it. He grabbed the controls of a hovercraft and sped toward the central hub. Zyra pointed at structural weaknesses and energy conduits with astonishing precision. Aim here, strike there. Distract them with the energy pulse. Ellie followed her instructions, combining human instinct with her tiny, sharp guidance. He fired an energy pulse at the warship, temporarily disrupting its shields. Zyra activated a nearby automated turret, targeting the ship's engines with deadly accuracy. Explosions rocked the vessel, throwing it off course. Excellent! Zyra shouted. Now, finish it! Eli maneuvered the hovercraft into position, using the terrain to their advantage. He released a series of magnetic charges that latched onto the warship's hull. Zyra directed the final sequence, her tiny hands flying across the control panel. The charges detonated, crippling the enemy vessel and sending it spinning into the void of space. The remaining enemy ships, seeing their leader destroyed, faltered and retreated. The colony was safe, for now. Eli slumped back, breathing heavily, while Zyra jumped onto his shoulder, her tiny fists raised in triumph. You see? She said proudly. Humans are extraordinary when they combine strength, courage, and intelligence. Eli laughed, shaking his head. You've got a way of making even the impossible seem easy. Zyra tapped his cheek lightly. I do not exaggerate. I speak the truth. You and your species are remarkable. That is why I cling to you. That is why I will never let go. Eli looked down at her tiny, determined face and smiled. You really mean that, don't you? I do, she said firmly. Your courage, adaptability, and cleverness are rare. Together, we can face anything. I stay with you because I believe in humans, and in you. Eli felt a surge of pride. Ooh. She had seen what he had sometimes doubted himself capable of, and she admired it. Humans were not just strong or fast. They were inventive, courageous, and relentless. They could take impossible situations and turn them into triumphs. All right, Zyra, he said, brushing debris from his uniform. I think we've earned a short break. But I have a feeling this galaxy won't stay quiet for long. Zyra shook her head. Breaks are for the unprepared. We must always be ready, and we must continue to learn from each other. You have shown me human ingenuity. I will show you precision, strategy, and cleverness. Huh, Eli chuckled. I guess that makes us a pretty good team. Not just a team, Zyra said seriously. We are proof that humans and those they ally with can overcome anything. The universe underestimates humans at its peril. Eli nodded, feeling a sense of awe. Humans were indeed underestimated. They had survived in impossible environments, adapted to countless threats, and now, with Zyra's guidance, had defeated a fleet of advanced alien warships. He had never felt prouder to be human. As they looked out over the colony, Eli realized that this tiny alien woman clinging to his leg was more than just a companion. She was a mirror, reflecting the best qualities of humanity: courage, ingenuity, adaptability, and relentless determination.
You know, Zyra, Eli said quietly, I used to think I was alone in this galaxy, that humans were just
floating in space, trying to survive. But now I see we're stronger than we realize. And maybe, just maybe, we're capable of greatness beyond anything we imagined. Zyra smiled, her tiny eyes glowing. Exactly. Humans are extraordinary. And you, Eli, are extraordinary among them. That is why I stay. That is why I will not let go. Eli laughed softly, shaking his head. You're impossible, you know that. And yet, Zyra said with a small, proud nod, perfectly suited to you. The colony was safe, the enemy defeated, and the bond between a human and a tiny alien had been forged in fire and strategy. Eli knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, full of dangers, and waiting for those brave enough to face them. But with Zyra by his side, he felt ready for anything. Humans were clever, resourceful, and courageous. They could survive against impossible odds, adapt to situations no one else could, and turn weakness into strength. And sometimes the most unexpected allies, no matter how small, could make the difference between defeat and victory. Eli looked down at Zyra, who was perched proudly on his shoulder. All right, he said, smiling. Let's see what comes next together. She gripped him tightly, a tiny fist pressing against his chest. Together, she echoed. And I will never let go. For the first time, he understood something profound. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't just in numbers, weapons, or technology. It was in courage, creativity, and the willingness to face the impossible. And with that strength, and with allies like Zyra, there was nothing they couldn't achieve. The stars stretched endlessly above them, the galaxy full of unknown dangers and adventures. But Eli no longer felt fear. He felt readiness. He felt pride. And above all, he felt hope. For humans, for Zyra, and for the incredible journey that lay ahead. The tiny alien woman clung to his leg, unwavering, loyal, and fierce. And Eli, for the first time in a long time, felt completely, undeniably alive. No matter what challenges came next, he knew. One thing with certainty: humans, clever and brave, could face anything, and sometimes the smallest companions could teach them their greatest lessons. Together, they would face the galaxy,